Cooking with Fatscraps. I'm an okay cook sharing tasty recipes. Today we're going to be making what we call in our house cabbage pasties, and apologies to those of you that know about real pasties, but that's what we call them here. This is a two-part menu that we'll get to in just a second, but first, as we always do on Cooking with Fatscraps, we go to the mailbag and we'll see some of your questions and comments. Dear Fatscraps, when are you going to up your production quality? It would help make your tasty recipes look even tastier. Signed, HD from Helena, Montana. Well, HD, that's a really good question. And as I have said, in order to up my production quality, you need to like and to subscribe to my YouTube channel so I can make a bazillion dollars and learn to live a life of ease and get better video equipment. So there you have it. All right, so what we're going to do first today is with our cabbage pasties is that we need to make a dough. Now, if you're not going to make a dough, what you can use is go to the grocery store, of course, and get frozen bread dough, and that works just fine. But please don't use that stuff that's in a cardboard tube. The flavor isn't good or anything like that. So, but I'm going to make dough right now because I want to show you how easy it is to make dough, and so you're not scared of it. This is my basic pizza dough recipe, which is really just my basic bread dough recipe, but it has oil in it. And the reason it has oil in it is that it helps so the dough doesn't get soggy when you put the stuffings in it. So if you don't want oil in it, you can go right ahead. So we begin with about 2.5 to 3 cups of flour. So I'm going to just start out with, and make sure you always spoon your flour into your measuring cup, because if you scoop your cup in there, it packs it in there and it's actually more than what you really need. So there's about 2.5 cups. We'll probably have to add some more. Then we need, if you buy a packet of yeast, then it's just 1 packet. If you buy the big jar like this, because I know you're gonna love making bread, so you're gonna be making bread all the time, put 2.25 teaspoons of yeast. Okay. Then a teaspoon of salt. Okay. Then just kind of mix that together. Make kind of a well in there. And then a cup of water. Now, you can use tap water or use a kind of warm water, that's fine, that works great. But the reason I use bottled water is because the water here has chlorine in it, and it's the kind of chemical that doesn't evaporate like in the old days where you left the water out and all the chlorine would get out of it. So this just makes it taste a little better. So I add a cup of that. And then if you're like me, walk over here to get your oil, because I forgot to put it out. And then we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of oil. I'm using, of course, olive oil. You can use your regular canola oil or whatever you have. 1, 2. All right. See, isn't this fun? So let's start mixing this together with our hands. If you want, you can also use a spatula or whatever you want to do with that. So let's just get this started. If you notice, I have this big cutting board. If you don't have one, just do it on the counter. That's what I normally used to do before I got this. And because you're going to be getting into making dough all the time, when you see how easy this is, you might want to buy a stand mixer. I usually use my stand mixer, but I just wanted to show you this so you're not afraid of it and that you know that it's pretty easy to do. Okay, once it's kind of mixed together, so it's not just a big watery mess, just dump it out on your counter or on your board, and then you start kneading. I've been really waiting to start making bread because I wanted to tell you something. When I used to work in the food service at the seminary I went to, and the cook there used to be a cook at Holden Village, and if you're of a certain persuasion, you know where Holden Village is, and it's a Christian Lutheran place. Anyway, he said you should always make bread by hand if you can, because the heel of your hand, God gave us these so that we could knead bread. And I always remembered that because that's exactly what you do. Okay, you see how this is coming together really nicely? Okay, my bread is not sticking to the table here, so I'm not going to add too much more flour, if any. All right, after you've kneaded it for a few minutes, whatever you feel like doing, it becomes pretty nice and silky. And if it's not sticking too bad to the table, you're pretty much done. Then all you need to do, this is what I do, you can do it, make it into a ball if you want, and just put it right back in the bowl. And some people, they like to put plastic wrap over it. I'm just gonna put a towel over it for now. Now, if you're using this for pizza dough, you can use it right now in a couple minutes, and then you have thin crust, or you can let it rise for about an hour, and then punch it down and use it for thick crust or puffy crust. I'm gonna just let it set for a while for our for our cabbage pasties, and we'll be right back. See you in a bit. All right. And now for the filling of our cabbage pasties. You're gonna need green cabbage, of course, and I guess this is about 2 cups worth. Again, whatever you feel like, if you like a lot of cabbage, if you don't, all that, okay? A medium onion chopped, salt and pepper, of course, and then, of course, hamburger. Now, I don't like the 80% lean hamburger because it's too fatty. Yeah, I know, I'm Fatscraps, but there's just so much grease left over and you end up just having a lot of grease and not much hamburger. And I don't like the really lean hamburger simply because I don't think there is as much flavor in it because it doesn't have as much fat. So I go for the 90 to 92% lean hamburger, and then there's not so much fat. I don't have to drain it. Don't let my family know that, but I've never drained hamburger in years. And there you have it. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to start browning my hamburger, then throw in my onions, and throw in my cabbage. And if you have a fry pan or a big enough pan that can hold all this with a lid, that'd be really great, but you don't really need one. But anyway, once it's cooked, I'm gonna put the lid on it so that the cabbage will wilt a little bit more, okay? And so I'll see you in about 15-20 minutes. Don't go away. Okay, hi again. Before we continue, I just want to say my drink of choice today is from a local brewery called Sprecher Brewery, and this is their Abbey Triple, and it's really tasty, so Prost. All right, we have our hamburger and cabbage all sauteed up, and it's cooled down enough so that we can handle it. The oven's gonna be set to 350, so you can start warming up. Now, you need a cookie sheet, and what I do is I just put parchment paper on it. That's for easier cleanup, but if you don't have parchment paper, just spray it with Pam or grease it a little bit so that your pasties don't stick. So that's that. Let's see how this dough is looking. Oh my gosh. Hope you can see that. Oh my gosh, that looks nice. Okay, so you're gonna just kind of knead that just a little bit more. So one of my things I like to do is taste the dough. I love raw dough, and if you read the flour sack, it says don't eat it because whatever. When I was growing up, my mom always baked bread and stuff, and I'd bug her and eat it. And I think she was just lying to me. She said, you shouldn't do that because you're gonna get worms. Well, Mom, I'm gonna get worms. I think we all tell our kids stuff like that so they'll just leave us alone. Okay, so let's begin. I'll show you how I make these. Put a little flour down. Excuse me. what size is that? About a golf ball? Okay, here's another thing that I found. This is like a French style rolling pin, and I like this a lot better than the American style. I think it's easier to control, and it does a really nice job. So anyway, you want to roll this out into a circle and make sure the middle isn't too thin, because that's going to be the top of your pasty. Then here you go. You take your filling and you can put as much or little as you want. You can make these pasties as big or little as you want. One thing I thought would be kind of fun is to, and then you gather up the edges like this, okay? Pinch it together. What I thought would be kind of fun is once this COVID thing gets over and we can start having friends over, is to make a bunch of these, but make them really little, like little poppers, and that would be a lot of fun. But then I realized I love my friends, but not enough to spend the time to do that. But you can go ahead and do it. So anyway, here is your first pasty. I'm going to finish making the rest of them, and then we'll go from there. All right, we got them all made, and you can see that I am not real consistent with sizes, but you can make them whatever size you want. Now I had leftover dough, of course, so these two are going to be buns, and honestly, they make great hard rolls, so that's always a plus about that. Now I'm going to mist these a little bit before I pop them in the oven, because that's what I do. And also I got a couple text messages, people asking me what kind of flour I use and how long did this really take to make. So first of all, I just use unbleached flour. I use Sarasota. You can pick whatever you want, but the reason I use unbleached flour is because there's less chemicals. To bleach flour, they use bromide and all that. So it's just up to you. And how long it took? From beginning to end, about an hour, and that includes letting the dogs out and letting them back in, answering a real phone call, and all that. So anyway, pop these in the oven for about 20 minutes, and I'll see you real soon. Man, don't these look great? So now you want to make sure that you let them set for a little bit, because believe you me, they're going to be hotter than the hubs of heck when you try them out. So anyway, thank you for being with me today, and I'll see you next time. That is tasty.